like any international vacation, you have to sit through customs and it's hot and the line is long. But we're in Jamaica and I'm looking around at all of these families and couples and groups and they're miserable. We just landed. And I'm thinking to myself, how long before I have a problem on my hands? Hello, and welcome to Enter the Nebula, episode 19. My name's Mike Ergo, and this week we're talking about being solution oriented as we continue to tackle the different buzzwords that we hear both in business and technology in order to help ourselves and our teams be better. This week, I want to start with a story, and it starts at an airport in Jamaica a couple of years ago. And I use this story with my teams when I'm talking about how we can be better at being solution oriented when dealing with problems. And so I'm at this airport with my wife and my two daughters. And like any international vacation, you have to sit through customs and it's hot and the line is long. But we're in Jamaica and I'm looking around at all of these families and couples and groups and they're miserable. We just landed. And I'm thinking to myself, how long before I have a problem on my hands? And I'm looking at my wife, who's probably a little hungry. I know I am. And I'm looking at my two daughters. They're probably hungry. They're definitely hot. And they definitely don't like sitting in a line. So, what do we do? How do we tackle this problem? Well, I've come up with a silly and overly simplified acronym. And the acronym is PIE, because who doesn't like pie, right? And if you don't, I'm sorry. You just will have to remember that you don't like pie. But in this case, it's good. And the first thing in PIE is P, which stands for problem. I think at times, as leaders, we can try to ignore problems, right? So you don't want to be on that end of the spectrum. You don't want to ignore a problem or hope it just goes away and that your team will just solve it. You need to make sure you understand it, but you also don't need to hyper fixate on the problem because then you're not going to be able to be open to any kind of solution. So when we look at problems, when we're being solution oriented, we need to look at them as opportunities, not blockers. Sure, they may be blocking something now, but it's an opportunity to improve a process. It's an opportunity to maybe grow professionally. If we had, maybe we made a mistake or maybe someone on our team made a mistake. Looking at problems as opportunities is a way to show your team the positive influence that you can have and work more towards a solution, again, rather than either ignoring or hyperfixating on a problem. So we're back to the airport. I'm looking at my wilting family and I'm looking at this line that is definitely going to take over a half hour before we get to the end. And I think, what can we do? Well, as a family, we've spent a good deal of time on YouTube looking at resort reviews or resort tours. And so the kids and my wife and I are fairly familiar with the resort. So why not talk about what we want to do when we get there, right? Let's take our mind off of things and let's focus on the positive of what's soon to become, right? Because we're going to be there for a week and this half hour in this room in line with these people is only temporary. And right away, you could see faces brighten because now we're talking about water slides and what frozen drink we're going to get as opposed to how hot it is and how long the line is, right? So looking at problems as opportunities is key. Next in PI is I. And I for me stands for infinity or infinite possibilities for solutions. I think sometimes as leaders, we have a preconceived idea of what the solution should be and are therefore shut off at times to other solutions or different biases that our team may have that really don't matter in the solution, right? I think of it when we t-shirt size things. We agree that a t-shirt's needed. We may agree that it's a large t-shirt. Great. But why are we getting bogged down in what color the t-shirt is or what cut, whether it's a polo or a v-neck? Does that really matter? If it does, sure, we need to talk about it, but oftentimes it doesn't. And we should be able to empower our teams to make some of those more granular, unimportant decisions that ultimately are going to solve the problem regardless of what they are. But we don't want to delay the solution because we're getting bogged down in details that really don't matter, especially in the long run. We have to look at the downstream impact of our solution and make sure that, hey, we're covered, but do so in a way that we're not delaying the implementation of whatever that solution is. If I sat for 20 minutes and thought about all the different types of conversations that we could have to take our mind off things, we'd be 10 minutes away from being out of the line, and my wife and kids and I would probably be that much more hot and that much more angry for the worst. So really taking the time to think of the infinite possibilities, but not going too far out, and being open to other ideas too. So that's the I. Now, how about the E? Well, that's empathy. I can't look at my wife and kids while they're hot and hungry, while I'm hot and hungry, and say, hey, buck up, start thinking about stuff at the resort. That's not going to do anything, right? But if I say, hey, guys, I know it's hot, and I know we got a long line ahead of us, but we've got a week of fun. We're going to get through it together, and let's take our mind off it by thinking about some of that fun stuff we're going to do. That kind of messaging is key, because when you have a problem, whether somebody messed up or there's a bug in the system or a process is broken, oftentimes people are not having fun. Somebody is having a negative impact, and we need to show empathy to those people that are impacted by the problem so that they can feel seen and then be open to buying into whatever the solution is going to be. Because if they're hyperfixated on the problem and the negative impact is having on them, they're not going to be open to whatever solution is being provided. So as we go through life, both inside and outside the workplace, it's important to remember how much we love pie. And when problems come up, we look at them as opportunities. We understand that there's more than one solution typically, and that we need to be empathetic to those around us. We're going to find that we're going to be better, more solution-oriented people, both in our work lives and our personal lives. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Again, I'm Mike Ergo. You can read the full article on my website, intellectualnebula.com. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe on all the social media, as it helps me continue to build my brand as I look for my next full-time career step. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.